Hi guys and gals, today we're talking about refusals and study permit applications for those of you who are looking to study in Canada, for those of you who are looking to get additional scores for your express entry and have chosen the study pathway. Now, we were discussing it on our channel how to deal with refusals in general, so I hope the major idea is more or less clear. I would of course repeat it briefly today, but I want to focus more on what to do right now. What's the difference in this post-COVID era, how to deal with those study permit refusals. Now, speaking about refusals in general, right, we've discussed it before that if you were rejected, if your application for study visa was rejected, it's not the end of the day. It's not it doesn't necessarily mean that you would not be able to come to Canada. You have to figure out what was the main underlying reason why officers decided to deny your visa, why officers decided that you can't come to Canada for studies. Now, in order to do that, one of the best ways is to request case notes, GCMS notes, known otherwise, right, where you would see what was actual reason for the refusal, because what you receive from officers in a typical refusal letter would be just a boilerplate where officer just marks against the most common reasons and would tell you, you know what, we're not satisfied, you would not return back home. What the heck does it mean? We're not satisfied that you have enough means to study in Canada. What does that mean? We're not satisfied that on a balance of probabilities that you got a genuine reason to study in Canada. What does that mean, right? And in order to understand what officers actually meant by that, you got to look into the case notes. Now, after that, you have to make sure that you prepare the response to officers, because whoever would be dealing with your case afterwards will see the previous refusal. So you got to address the problem. Hey, you were not satisfied with my bank statement. Here are the last 4, 5, 6 months of my bank transaction history so that you would know where money are coming from. You are not satisfied with my career goals. Here is the additional proof, the extra letter from my current employer stating that they're waiting for me to return back, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And afterwards, reapplication. If not successful, there are pathways for going forward up to the federal court. Again, we've discussed it on the channel, and of course, if you would need professional assistance with that, we'd be more than happy to help you. Now, what happens here after COVID, right, is that we have backlogs. Many of you know about it, right? Processing backlogs for temporary visa applications, processing backlogs for immigration applications. We do have backlogs for case notes applications as well. So two things to consider in here. Now, if your application is still in process, you were not refused, but it's still in process, right? Make sure that if it's past due, so say you're about to study, start your studies somewhere in September, it's October right now, your application is not finalized yet, make sure that you defer your studies. Make sure that you contact your academic institution, get a deferral, get this deferral letter and send it to officers stating that, look, my studies were shifted towards winter, were shifted towards spring, right? So otherwise, right, officers would refuse your application just because your studies have presumably commenced and you are not in Canada yet. The other thing here is going forward with the GCMS notes. It's practically impossible, at least at this particular second while we're recording this video, to get the case notes in the due time of 30 business days. Now, what it means for you is that you may not receive them in time for your reapplication. You are preparing it, it takes you too long. What to do in this case? Well, deal with the professionals who know how to address the problems. It is quite possible, looking at your documents, analyzing those documents, analyzing your supplementary letters which you were submitting to officers, what was the problem? Well, it's not a, I would say, it's not a guess in this sense, because you would know the general pattern on how officers actually process applications, and we would be able to figure out the proper response. What was the main problem in here, right? How to deal with this problem, how to address it. And last but not least, you know, in many cases we work with, I would say 5 to 10% of them don't necessarily even need to study in Canada. When we start dealing with them and trying to figure out what was the underlying reason for coming to Canada, it is quite possible to find a solution, say, for an immigration program which would be suitable for the family to relocate to Canada rather than pursuing the studies. So bottom line here, if you're looking for professional assistance on how to deal with your refusal, feel free to drop us a line. If needed, we would set up the personal, individual, professional consultation. We would decide what to do next, and we would figure out the best course of action for you and your family. Stay tuned with us, and of course subscribe for the channel.